Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that is literally changing the game for modern businesses. We're going to demystify HR analytics and show you exactly how to prove its bottom-line value using hard data. So, if you've ever wondered how to turn human resources into a quantifiable financial asset, well, you're in exactly the right place. Let's get into it.
Now, you might be thinking about that old traditional viewpoint that's been lingering in the corporate world for decades. You know the one, is HR just an overhead cost? Is it just that department stuck doing administrative paperwork, checking compliance boxes, and, organizing the annual holiday party? For a long time, people viewed HR as a total sinkhole for expenses, a necessary evil that drains resources instead of generating them.
But as we're unpacking today, the source material completely flips that misconception on its head. Here is the reality. When it's driven by data, HR is actually a profit center. Absolutely. When you approach it the right way, your human resources department becomes a massive engine for quantifiable financial returns. We're talking about dragging HR out of the back office and giving it a permanent, undeniable seat at the revenue-generating table.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll cover rethinking HR beyond overhead. Second, we'll hit the 4 drivers of ROI. Third, we'll break down the analytics value chain. Fourth, we'll look at some real-world ROI examples. And finally, we'll talk about speaking the CFO's language.
All right, Section 1, Rethinking HR, Beyond Overhead. The biggest takeaway here is that just hoarding data isn't going to cut it, right? You could run employee surveys all day long, but true return on investment only happens when you tie those workforce insights directly to tangible, measurable business outcomes. Things like lower attrition rates, a much faster hiring process, and better manager effectiveness. Because when HR analytics are literally linked to these specific levers, the whole organization stops guessing. They stop relying on gut feelings and start proving clear financial returns.
Moving right along to Section 2, the 4 drivers of ROI.
According to the research, there are really 4 core areas where HR analytics deliver the biggest financial punch. First up is revenue uplift. Think about it. Faster hiring, better talent alignment. If you get the right people into the right seats faster, you're literally reducing lost sales. Second is productivity gains. Using analytics to boost engagement and leadership can seriously improve output and cut down on wasted time. Third is cost avoidance, which we're going to dig into in just a sec, but essentially it's about lowering turnover and dodging bad hires. And finally, risk reduction. Solid compliance and safety metrics prevent super expensive fines and operational headaches.
And let's look closer at that third driver, cost avoidance, because this stat is a real eye-opener. 50%. The data shows that replacing just one single employee costs at least 50% of their annual salary. To put that in perspective, if someone makes $100,000 a year, losing them costs the company a minimum of $50,000 in recruitment and replacement. Not to mention the lost institutional knowledge, right? If HR analytics can predict and stop that turnover before it happens, that's pure cost avoidance. That is straight cash kept right in the company's pocket.
Okay, Section 3, the analytics value chain. Let's break down exactly how this builds systemically. It's really a simple 3-step domino effect. Step 1, your analytics produce insights. Say your data flags a specific department as a total turnover hotspot. Step 2, you use those insights to drive interventions. So you spot the hotspot and you take action. Maybe you tweak the promotion cycles or fix the management structure in that specific team. And then, Step 3, those interventions yield measurable outcomes. Because of what you did in Step 2, attrition drops and retention shoots up. You literally took a raw data point and used it to save an employee.
And once you have that measurable outcome, you just plug it into the simple ROI equation. It's the financial benefit minus the cost, all divided by the cost. The really cool part here is that those financial benefits are exactly what we just talked about. The avoided costs, the productivity boosts, or the extra revenue. You just figure out what the HR intervention costs to actually roll out, and then measure it against the hard dollars you saved or earned. It makes the completely intangible tangible.
Let's make this real. Section 4, real-world ROI examples.
First, let's look at talent acquisition. Imagine digging into your hiring pipeline with analytics and spotting a massive bottleneck. If you can smooth that out and cut the average time to hire by just 10 days for a revenue-generating role like a sales rep, you are directly accelerating revenue. Think about it. Every single day a sales territory sits empty, the company is bleeding money. Putting a closer in that chair 10 days faster recaptures real quarterly sales. That's a textbook example of the revenue uplift driver in action. Now let's compare a couple of other massive impacts, retention and onboarding. Start with retention. A totally incremental, seemingly tiny 1% improvement in retention at a mid-market company translates to six-figure annual savings. Remember that 50% replacement cost we mentioned? That is exactly where this money comes from. On the flip side, look at onboarding. By utilizing HR data to streamline and automate that process, companies are saving 7 to 8 HR hours per individual new hire.
Just to really drive home the scale of that kind of efficiency, let's do the math. Saving 7 to 8 hours per hire, that adds up to nearly 1,000 saved HR hours a year for a company hiring 120 employees. 1,000 hours. That is literally half a full-time employee whose schedule just got completely freed up. Now, instead of pushing onboarding paperwork, they can focus on high-level, strategic, revenue-generating projects.
Which brings us to our final hurdle. Section 5. Speaking the CFO's language.
This is absolutely crucial. You have to act as a translator. See, in classic HR language, we love talking about engagement scores, cultural health, and hiring velocity. And look, those are super important, but to an executive board or a CFO, they often sound a little soft. The real secret to winning with HR analytics is translating those metrics into finance language. You have to present your outcomes in terms the CFO cares about, hard dollars saved or revenue earned. You don't just walk in and say, hey, engagement went up. You say, engagement went up, which drove down attrition by 1%, ultimately saving us $200,000.
Now, I do have to add a quick caveat, because getting to this level of translation isn't just magic. The research is very clear that proving this ROI depends heavily on three big things: your analytics maturity, having clean HR data, and highly disciplined implementation. If your data is a mess, or if you kind of lose the thread halfway through the value chain, your ROI calculations are just going to fall apart when the finance team scrutinizes them. You absolutely need rigorous, clean data to make these business cases stick.
So, that leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question to close out our explainer today. Look at your own team and ask yourself, are you building a CFO-ready business case, or are you just tracking data? By zeroing in on measurable levers, like attrition, hiring velocity, and true productivity, you have the exact blueprint to permanently transform HR from a simple overhead expense into a powerhouse profit center. The insights are sitting right there, and the financial outcomes are waiting. It's time to start calculating your ROI. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I really hope this sparks a whole new way of looking at your workforce data.